Hey there, Barb Nangle from Higher Power Coaching. And if you feel like just being in a relationship with someone means you bring a deficit to the relationship, I hear you. I didn't know that was going on for me for years. It wasn't until I got into 12-step recovery and really did some very thorough examination of my life in a way that never occurred in the decades of self-help and therapy and programs, et cetera, that I did before that. And what I realized was that my behavior was such that I act like, well, I bring a deficit to this relationship. So we're like, the relationship has been brought down just by me being here. So in order to just to bring us up to zero, I have to bring all this extra stuff. I have to add value constantly to the relationship. I have to give a lot more than you. And in fact, I have to act like I don't have needs and not expect anything from you. So if that's you, I hear you. If that is you, you probably have the same experience as me, which is that's unsustainable. So I would go into relationships and I would be like, I don't have any needs. And in fact, I'm here to meet your needs and give and give and give and give. And I can tell you the last guy that I dated before I got into recovery, I literally said to him one time, maybe 3 or 4 weeks into dating, let's see if we can heal some of those wounds. Like I have that kind of power. Like I literally believed that I could heal this man by just loving him in the right way in all the ways that he wanted and needed. And I went into the relationship as if I had no needs. And it was absolutely unsustainable for me, which meant I started to get resentful of him because I was giving way more than he was giving, and because he wasn't giving me anything. And at the time, I felt really justified in my resentment. And now I understand there's no way that he was going to meet my needs because I basically made a subconscious contract with him by letting him know, like, I'm here to meet all your needs. I don't have any. And then of course, I was the kind of person who wouldn't accept help from people. So I wanted you to do things for me, but I wanted you to know that I wanted you to do things for me without me telling you. And then also I was going to refuse those things from you. So if this is you, you are not alone. And one of the things that we can do that helps us change these behaviors is learn to keep the focus on ourselves rather than other people. It doesn't mean that we're going to be unhelpful. It doesn't mean that we're selfish or we're going to be bad people. But when you keep the focus on yourself, it includes things like asking yourself, what do I want and need in this situation? What might I be doing to contribute to the situation? If you're seeing a dynamic over and over and over again in your life, especially if it recurs in multiple areas and relationships, you're the common denominator. And this is not about beating the shit out of yourself. This is info, not ammo. In other words, this is information for you to learn, integrate, and grow from. It is not ammunition to beat yourself up. Because if you could beat yourself up into being a better person, you probably would have done it right now. And when we beat ourselves up, we end up just battered and bruised. And that is no place from which to grow and change. So we want to be curious. That's what info, not ammo is. It's about curiosity. And curiosity is neutral. So info, not ammo. What might I be doing here to contribute this? And therefore, what might I change going forward? Another way to keep the focus on yourself is to ask, is this really my business? So if you're constantly giving unsolicited advice to people, if you think people should just do things your way, if you are offering resources to people, if you're foisting your help on people that haven't even asked for help and maybe don't even define their situation as requiring help, you're probably not minding your own business. So start paying attention to yourself and your issues instead of other people's. And then another way that we can keep the focus on ourselves is stop managing other people's feelings. If someone is upset, it's not your job to cheer them up. They get to be upset. They get to feel their feelings, and it's not your job to take care of them. And then the last way that I recommend to keep the focus on yourself is to take really good care of yourself. If you have been doing all these things that I'm talking about, chances are high you have been neglecting the shit out of yourself, maybe even abusing yourself. That was me for sure. So what I want you to do is some kind of way of taking care of yourself. And what that means is what fuels you, because what fuels me doesn't necessarily fuel you. And this is something we want to do on a consistent basis. It is not selfish. It's self-preservation, and it's also selfless, because when you take care of yourself, you're filling your cup to the point where it's overflowing so that you can pour from the overflow rather than from an empty cup. And who wants to receive from someone who's trying to squeeze something out of an empty cup? Nobody. They'd much rather receive from someone who's pouring from the overflow. So if your battery is on empty, you can't really go far with that. You want to make sure to keep your battery charged at all times. So I want to give you an example of that. I had a client a couple of weeks ago who runs events with basketball tournaments for kids. And they happened to run a basketball tournament when there was a national fiasco with all of the airlines right in the middle of the tournament. And so that meant that she had a logistical nightmare to get all those kids back home. And after it was over and she came home, she messaged me and she said, I'm so proud of myself, the way that I handled it. It went so smoothly. Self-care was key. And I said to her, yeah, it's amazing what you can withstand when you take really good care of yourself. In other words, she was pouring from the overflow to deal with that fiasco. And she had it to give because she started taking really good care of herself. She wasn't doing that before we started coaching, even though she's been trained as a yoga teacher and she knows all about self-care. She just was like, I'm busy. I don't have time for me, which is what people say all the time. You don't have time not to take care of you. And I want to speak specifically to the moms who are watching this. When you constantly run yourself ragged and keep trying to run on an empty battery, you are basically teaching everybody around you, I'm expendable. And you're especially teaching that to your children and especially your daughters, because they're going to grow up being, okay, well, my mom is expendable. I'm going to be expendable too. And you are not expendable. You're not expendable. Thank you for listening. Please be sure to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be notified when I release more videos.